Donald Trump is back in the White House. He's the 47th president of the United States. This has been a comeback story like no other. Now, campaigning turns to governing. And time will tell as to whether Trump's campaign ideas turn into actual policy. But even before that, there's a lot to take away from his first day, from his inauguration speech to what he did in the Oval Office with executive orders. There's a lot of geopolitical signals to be deciphered. So here are my 5 big geopolitical takeaways from Trump's first day in office. Number 1, Trump is reaching the end when it comes to certain types of negotiation, whether it's taking control of the Panama Canal, which he specifically mentioned in his inauguration speech, or him announcing that tariffs on Canada and Mexico will go into effect on February 1. All of this is a sign that whatever backdoor negotiations, whatever backdoor discussions have been ongoing between the US, between the Trump party and various parties around the world have done nothing. They haven't bared any fruit. And Trump is now saying he's given enough runway, and now Trump's policies are about to be imposed. So this is a big sign that the space for negotiation in Trump's second term is quite limited. Trump is ready to take radical, bold geopolitical or geoeconomic steps even before other nations have had time to prepare. And this comes even after certain countries like Canada have warned of massive escalation. The Canadian government has warned it will deal the biggest trade economic blow to the US because of the place the Canadian economy represents in the global economy, specifically for US exports. So that's the first big takeaway. The second big takeaway is that there was no real mention of the collective West. This was quite stunning that whether it was NATO, whether it was Western nations, the Western Bloc, whether it was even US adversaries like Russia, China, or Iran, none of it was clearly mentioned or called out on Trump's first day. And this leads to the possibility that Trump's foreign policy in his second term will be incredibly vague because the geopolitical conditions surrounding Trump in his second term are completely different than during his first term. There's 2 wars raging, there's massive escalation between the US and China, there's massive geoeconomic changes taking place in the Middle East and in Asia and in Africa. And so for Trump, he's not willing to take a direct public stance on any specific country. Instead, he's going to decide what to do without necessarily informing the public first, which goes back to his standing policy of not letting the enemy know what he's going to do. The third takeaway is that a new kind of space race is about to begin. When Biden took office, the focus was on chips and AI and life sciences. But now, alongside those geopolitical battlefields, Trump made it clear in his inauguration speech that he wants to land American boots on the ground, put American flag on Mars. And this is reflective of the new kind of space race that's been brewing for several years now. And it's going to take a new turn, especially because in Trump's second term, China is likely to launch its own space station. And this will be a turning point for geopolitics because for the past many decades, the world has revolved around the International Space Station, which has largely been led by the US and to a lesser degree, Russia. And now China may launch its own space station, which the US has to contend with, especially as the ISS is effectively turned offline and its life is limited and governments figure out what to do. So a new space race is about to begin in Trump's second term. The fourth takeaway is that trade is in the crosshairs of Trump far more than just tariffs. When it comes to trade, Trump isn't just thinking about tariffs. Trump is also thinking about how he can use the US military to reshape global trade. This is a brand new geopolitical paradigm. The idea of a nation using its military to control critical trade choke points has only happened during times of war. But now, in his inauguration speech, Trump's saying that he wants and will take back the Panama Canal points to, number one, his campaign ideas were not just ideas, they are about to become policy. And secondly, what this entails is that the US will use its military to pressure Panama to hand over the canal. And this could take the form of the US imposing a blockade of the Panama Canal, or even US forces going into Panama and taking control of the canal. All of this sounds quite unthinkable and unprecedented, but in today's world where anything is possible, this is exactly what may be on the horizon. So this is a big geopolitical shift if Trump does make a play for Panama with the US military, which as president, he said he will do. And the fifth possibility, the fifth big takeaway, is that businesses are about to play a new role in Trump's second term than ever before. The worlds and the lines separating business and geopolitics are about to blur even more. And this was very, very clear at Trump's inauguration, where Silicon Valley executives had better seats than Trump's own cabinet picks, which was quite a telling sign of how important these business executives and these platforms and these companies are to Trump's ideas in his second term. And while many folks view this as purely a domestic matter, there is a large and growing possibility that Trump will use American businesses to drive his ideas on the world stage. And this is interestingly going to create some kind of similarity with China, who the Chinese government uses its businesses to expand the Chinese geoeconomic footprint. So too, the US is likely to do so under Trump's second term in a far more public way than it has done in the past. So these are 5 of my key takeaways, 5 geopolitical takeaways from Trump's first day. It's still early days, and over the next coming days and weeks, I'm sure a lot more will take place that adds all kinds of other dimensions, and there's a lot more to take away. But I wanted to get my thoughts to you as soon as I could. I hope you resonate with today's video insight. Leave your thoughts below and talk soon.